We're back here on Smells Like 90's Rock. Hot Toddy back with you. Once again, Sheila out for the evening. She was a little under the weather tonight, so I hope she gets better soon, but she's out for the evening. And DJ Poor, who knows? MIA. That's what DJ Poor is. I have no idea what happened to him. Ollie is still stuck in a prison in Tokyo, and Orson Welles, once again, who knows? He's probably out drunk somewhere, knowing him. So I am all alone tonight. So I got to thinking, since I'm going to be the only one here, I would do something a little special. Now, our show is flawless. Let's face facts. It's the greatest show in radio history. I mean, we have a blast on the show. We have a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of funny things. I mean, just last week, I was reposting some of the segments from the last week's show, and I didn't know if I was going to have enough time to post them all up during the week. I mean, there were so many great segments, I just didn't know if I was going to have enough room to put them all up there. But we did, and I tell you, I love it. I mean, this is the perfect combination of banter and great music, and it's just a lot of fun to do. But sometimes doing all of that, we kind of overlook the entire purpose of this show, and that of course is the 90s. We hardly ever talk about the 90s unless it kind of pops up in the conversation just all of a sudden. So I thought tonight, why not talk a little bit more about the 90s? So I put together a new segment called Headlines from the 90s, and that is where we go year by year talking about the major headlines that was happening in the 90s in that particular year. So, we're not going to go through the entire 90s tonight, but we'll do this segment periodically, and we'll hit year by year, and tonight, of course, we'll hit 1990. Since it's the first time we've done it, we'll hit 1990, the first year of the 90s. So what do you say? Let's get it going. Here is Headlines from the 90s. Here we go. And now let's go back in time and check out some of the headlines from our beloved decade, the 90s, with Headlines from the 90s on Smells Like 90's Rock. Hello and welcome to Headlines from the 90s, where we take a look back at some of the biggest stories that made headlines in the 1990s. Tonight's year, 1990. The first free elections in 53 years occurred in May of this year in Romania. German reunification. After the wall fell, the push towards reuniting the two Germanys was set on this very month, October 3rd, 1990. Gene therapy debuts in Bethesda, Maryland in September. It's used to treat ADA deficiency. Margaret Thatcher resigns after passing a flat tax called the poll tax, which led to rioting and trying to block the EC's plan for a common currency. Her rivals began calling for her resignation, and she will resign next month in November and will be replaced by John Major. Contraceptive implant approved by FDA. Norplant is the first implant contraceptive approved by the FDA. There's a new movie rating out. It's called NC-17. It's passed in order to allow for an adults-only rating without the stigma of the X rating. Spotted owl added to the threatened species list. That's right. And of course, the timber industry is very outraged about this, since this will protect the old growth forests of the Pacific Northwest and will cost jobs. Sandistas voted out of Nicaragua. Camaro was elected president, the first female of Central America. Iraq invades Kuwait. Saddam Hussein accuses Kuwait of undercutting Iraq's petroleum revenues and of stealing from a border oil field. Kuwait offers concessions considered inadequate to Hussein, so he sends in 100,000 troops. Kuwait's armies ended up fleeing along with the king. Iraq has now been condemned by the Arab League, the Soviets, and especially the U.S., who will send in 500,000 troops to defend Saudi Arabia and prepare for an invasion. The three tenors performed during the World Cup soccer finals. Jose Carreras, Placido Domingo, and Luciano Pavarotti unite to perform, and they will later record an album and a video. The album reaches 43 on the U.S. pop charts, the highest a classical album reaches on the U.S. pop chart since the 1960s. Their performance is, however, widely panned by music critics who label them past their prime. Liberia is invaded by Charles Taylor. A former junta member who was driven out of the country accused of embezzlement has invaded the country with 150 Libyan-trained guerrillas. The government responds by attacking the Geo and Mano groups, which then retaliate against the government, ripping apart the country. Mapplethorpe shows results in controversy. Cincinnati files obscenity charges against museum director Dennis Berry for displaying Robert Mapplethorpe's work, some of which featured children's genitals and sadomasochistic sex. This occurs at a time when Jesse Helms begins his crusade against government funding of artwork. Dr. Jack Kevorkian assists his first. In June of this year, he assists 54-year-old Janet Atkins, who was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. This goes against the Hippocratic Oath, "I will give no deadly medicine to anyone if asked, nor suggest any such counsel." The Hubble Space Telescope is launched into orbit. That's right, at a cost of $1.5 million. The telescope was launched with a lot of expectations of success. Once in orbit, however, one of the mirrors was discovered to be incorrectly ground, resulting in blurred pictures. In 1993, it will be repaired by a space shuttle mission. Manuel Noriega turns himself in to U.S. military. Ending his standoff inside the Vatican embassy, he returned to the U.S. to face drug trafficking charges. And there you have it. That's the first round of stories from 1990. We still have plenty to get to, but for now, let's get back to the music.